Hello to 10 classmates, my name is Santiago Ardila. This is video step 2 to establish historical foundation for designing teaching materials. What should ELT materials have? The material should expose the learners to language is adapted use. Materials should be according to their age, your pace of learner, their light. Have learners to pay attention to features and authentic input. Use teaching materials that spark creativity, the interesting and motivation in the field. Provide the learners with opportunities to use the target language to achieve communicated purpose. Give the opportunity to the students express themselves, exchange ideas, express their lights, motion, and knowledge in language English. Provide opportunities for outcome feedback. Use teaching materials that feedback thence acquired knowledge and practice English. Achieve by the sense that they arouse and sustain their learners' curiosity and attention. Use materials that motivate and allow their awaken the curiosity of the student. Stimulate intellectual studies and emotional involvement. Get opportunity to manipulate materials, match materials, complete activities to develop creativity, studies and thinking critical. Proposal for principal approach to the development of ELT materials. Principle of language acquisition 1. A prerequisite for language acquisition is that the learners are exposed to a rich, meaningful, and comprehensible input of language in use. The learners need a lot of experience of the language being used in a variety. They'll be able to understand enough of the input to gain positive need to experience particular language in the future many times meaningful and comprehensible. Principle of materials development. 1. The material should contain a lot of spoken and written text. 2. The level in the text must be according to age and grade. 3. Language input should be contextually language used in determining and interpreting in relation to in context of use. 4. The learner should be exposed to sufficient samples of language in authentic use. Principle of language acquisition 2. Effectively and connectively in the language experience. Thinking while experiencing language in use help to achieve the deep processes required for effective and durable learning, and it helps learners to transfer language skills such as predicting. Ideally, the learners should be experience positive effect in the sense of being confident, motivated, and willingly engaged, even when experiencing negative emotion. Principle of material development. 1. Priority the potential for engagement. 2. Activities which get the learners to think about what they are reading or listening and to respond to its personality. 3. Activities which get learners to think and feel before, during, and after using the target language for communication. Principle of language acquisition 3. Language learners who as its positive effects are much more likely to achieve communicate competence than those who don't. Language learner needs to be positive about the target language and need to achieve positive self-esteem and to feel that they are achieving something worldwide. Above all, they need to be emotionally involved in the linear process. Principle of material development. One, the tests and tasks should be more interesting, relevant, enjoyable as positive. Two, sub-challenge which help to range to linear self-esteem. Three, stimulate emotive response through the use of music, song, literature, art, etc. through making use the controversial and provocative tests. Principle of language acquisition 4. Second language learners can benefit from using those mental resources with their typical urine lights when occurring using their first language. We can take in second language similar or first language. In first language linear and use learners typically make use of mental imaging example seeing picture in their mind. In second language linear and use learners typical focus neurally on linguistic decoding and encoding. Multidimensional representation and language experience and use can enrich the learning process in ways which remote durable acquisition. Principle of materials development. 1. Linear visuality and use inner speech before, during, and after experiencing and writing or spoken text. 2. Linear visually and use inner speech before, during, and after using language themselves. 3. Mental activities during our thoughts and then to try to make more use of mental strategies in a similar task. Principle of language acquisition 5. Language learner can benefit from noticing salient feature of the input. Is learners notice for themselves how a particular language event or feature is used, they are more likely to develop their language awareness, and they are also more likely to achieve readiness for acquisition. Principle of material development. 1. Use an experimental approach in which the learners are first on all provides with an experience which engage, then holistical from the experience they learned implicitly without focusing curious attention on any particular features of the experience. 2. Rather than drawing the learner's attention to particular features of a text and then providing explicit information about its use. Principle Principle of language acquisition 6. Learners need opportunities to use language to try to achieve communicate purpose. When using language in this way, they are gaining feedback on the hypotheses they have developed as a result of generalizing the language in their intake on their abilities to make use to them effectively. Principle of materials development. 1. Opportunities for the learners to produce language in order to achieve intended outcomes. 2. Make sure that these output activities are designed so that the learners are using language. 3. Design output activities so that they help learners develop their abilities to communicate fluently, accumulatively, appropriately, and effectively. 4. Make sure that the output activities are full conceptually in that the learners are responding to an authentic stimulus, example tests and need a viewpoint and event that they have specific addresses and that they had a clear intended outcome in mind. 5. Opportunities for feedback and built into output activities are provided for the learners afterwards.